The night was long, filled with the thunder of distant guns and the hiss of smoke rising from ruined buildings. Commander Thalrix remained on his ridge watching the humans below. His visor recorded every movement, every word, though he did not yet understand their language. They were restless, yet not careless. Some guarded the streets, their eyes sharp in the darkness. Others repaired weapons, checked ammunition, or bandaged wounds. None slept for long. They rotated duties with a discipline that surprised him. The Cathari Empire's drones, by contrast, did not need rest. They moved endlessly until destroyed. But these humans, limited by flesh, somehow created a rhythm that gave them strength. They worked as if each one trusted the other to survive the night. Thalrix studied their leader most carefully, the scarred human who had stood at the center of their fight. His face was rough, his voice steady, his hands always pointing, guiding, steadying others. Even in silence, he seemed to hold his people together. Strange, Thalrix thought. Among my kind, soldiers obey because they fear. These humans obey because they trust. It was a difference too small for most Cathari to notice. But to Thalrix, it was the first sign of something dangerous. A morning of fire at dawn, the quiet shattered. The humans stirred as the ground began to tremble. Thalrix's visor detected approaching Cathari forces. Not only drones this time, but also armored walkers and a transport ship lowering from the clouds. The Empire was sending more strength to crush the stubborn defenders. The scarred leader gave orders quickly. The humans moved like a storm through the ruins. Some climbed higher, setting up rifles. Others carried heavy packs into underground tunnels. A few scattered outward, vanishing into the forest. To Thalrix's eyes, it looked chaotic. Yet as he observed, he realized it was not chaos. It was a web. Every thread moving into place, waiting for the right moment to tighten. The Cathari walkers entered the ruins first. Tall metal legs crashed down on broken streets. Energy weapons glowed. Drones followed, wings humming. Scanners sweeping. The humans were still, silent, invisible. Then, suddenly, the ground itself exploded. The trap. The first walker collapsed as mines hidden beneath the road detonated. Its legs folded, its heavy body smashing into a wall. Humans burst from hiding, rifles cracking. One drone fell. Another spun out of control as wires snapped around its wings. Wires the humans had strung across the ruins during the night. The Cathari forces responded instantly, firing beams of energy into the ruins. Stone and metal melted. Dust filled the air, but the humans kept moving. They did not fight in one place. They struck, vanished, and struck again from another direction. Their leader shouted only a few words each time, but somehow every soldier seemed to know what to do. Thalrix's visor recorded everything, and yet he could not understand it. These were not trained armies like the Cathari legions. These were fighters who adapted with every breath, every heartbeat. One human crawled under a walker, attaching an explosive to its joints. Another used a captured alien weapon, awkward but effective, to pierce a drone's armor. The battlefield was chaos, but chaos that favored the humans. The bold soldier, in the middle of the fight. One soldier caught Thalrix's attention, smaller than the others, carrying fewer weapons, yet fearless. When a walker's beam pinned two humans behind a wall, this smaller soldier ran forward, drawing fire. He carried no shield, no heavy gun, only a flare. He threw it into the walker's sensors, blinding it for seconds. Those seconds were enough. The scarred leader fired a rocket, striking the machine in its chest. The walker crashed to the ground, burning. The smaller soldier barely escaped the blast, rolling across the dirt, coughing from smoke. But he laughed even in pain. His comrades pulled him up, clapping his shoulders. Thalrix tilted his head. What kind of mind chooses death so freely? Not for himself, but to save others. Among the Cathari, sacrifice was duty. Among humans, sacrifice seemed to be choice. That difference unsettled him more than any weapon. Alien frustration high above, Cathari commanders grew frustrated. Their voices crackled into Thalrix's earpiece. Report, observer. Why are these creatures still resisting? Why have the drones not crushed them? Thalrix hesitated before answering. His words were careful. The humans use their environment. They are unpredictable. The commander's tone was sharp. Unpredictable? They are primitives with metal sticks. Do not exaggerate, Thalrix wanted to argue. He wanted to tell them what he had seen, that humans turned ruins into weapons, that they risked themselves for others, that their chaos was not weakness, but strength. But he remained silent. If he spoke too soon, they would laugh at him as the officers had before. Better to wait, better to gather more proof. The turning of battle. The humans were still outnumbered. For every drone destroyed, 2 more descended from the skies. The walkers, though slowed, kept advancing. Thalrix expected the humans to finally break. But instead they shifted. The scarred leader whistled sharply. From tunnels beneath the ruins, hidden soldiers emerged carrying strange devices: pipes, wires, fuel cans. They had been building something during the night. A moment later, fire filled the streets. Homemade flame projectors spewed burning liquid onto drones. Walls collapsed from carefully placed charges trapping Cathari machines. The humans roared as they struck, voices filled with fierce energy. They did not fight like victims. They fought like hunters cornering prey. Thalrix's chest tightened. If they can do this with scraps, what will they do if they ever steal our technology? Aftermath hours later, silence returned. The battlefield was broken, covered in smoke and metal corpses. The humans had lost many. Bodies were carried away, wrapped in cloth. Yet their eyes held no despair. Instead, they looked at each other with determination, as if every loss only sharpened their resolve. The scarred leader stood tall, dirt and blood across his face. He spoke to his people with calm strength. Though Thalrix could not understand the words, he understood the effect. The humans straightened, nodded, and prepared to move again. They were not finished. Thalrix's fear hidden on his ridge. Thalrix's 4 hands clenched. He replayed the battle again and again. The Cathari had sent superior machines, more numbers, more firepower. By logic, the humans should have been crushed. And yet they were not. They adapted faster than his calculations could follow. They risked everything for victory. They turned weakness into strength. For the first time in his career, Thalrix felt something he had never known on a battlefield. Not pride. Not confidence, but fear. He whispered into his recorder, "If this is only one small company of their fighters, then the Empire may not be ready for the rest of them." His voice trembled as he spoke the final words. "I was ordered to observe humans in combat. I've observed, and now, I doubt our survival." Commander Thalrix stood inside the great viewing chamber of the orbital vessel, his 4 eyes fixed on the blue-green planet below. The ship's glass walls stretched high above his head, curving into the endless dark of space. Around him, other officers of the Cathari Empire muttered in their harsh voices, confident and mocking as they stared at the fragile world. To them, this was just another conquest, another primitive species about to fall under their banners. But to Thalrix, this mission was different. He had been ordered not to fight, not to command fleets, not to lead soldiers into battle. His task was simple, though it carried a weight heavier than he admitted. Observe the humans in combat. Watch them, record them, measure them, then deliver a report that would help the Cathari decide how to destroy or enslave them. "Look at them," one officer sneered, tapping a clawed finger against the glass screen where grainy images of human soldiers appeared. "They walk in straight lines like animals. They carry slug throwers, chemical weapons. Nothing but toys," another officer laughed. "They hide in mud, they sweat, they tire. They are not worthy of fear." The chamber filled with cruel laughter. Thalrix stayed silent. His mind was sharper than theirs, his eyes keener. He did not laugh because he did not yet know if laughter was wise. The human world, the planet below, was scarred. Large cities smoked after orbital bombardments. Forests burned in wide patches. Yet despite the destruction, the humans had not surrendered. They moved through the ruins like ants, fast, stubborn, and hard to crush. Thalrix had studied their history before leaving the Empire. Humanity's past was full of wars, chaos, and endless conflict with themselves. The Council believed this history made them weak. If they fought each other for centuries, they must be foolish. They must be fragile. But Thalrix saw another possibility. Perhaps constant war had sharpened them. Perhaps endless struggle had made them something dangerous. His orders were clear. "Go down, watch them fight, bring us the truth, descent." The shuttle doors closed behind him with a hiss. Alone, wrapped in his cloaking armor, Thalrix began the descent into the planet's atmosphere. The shuttle cut through the clouds silently, and soon the world below spread before him. Mountains, rivers, broken cities, and fields filled with smoke. His landing zone was far from the human base. The Council wanted no risk of humans capturing Cathari equipment. He would walk the rest of the way, hidden by his armor, unseen even by the sharpest human eyes. Thalric stepped out onto soil that was rough and dark from fire. The air was heavy with dust. Far away, he heard the dull thunder of human artillery. Explosions lit the horizon. He moved like a shadow through forests and ruined fields until he reached high ground. There he looked down upon his target, a cluster of human soldiers gathering near broken walls of an old city. First impressions: the humans were smaller than Cathari. Their skin tones varied, their armor mismatched. Their weapons looked crude: metal rifles, launchers, knives. Many wore simple cloth under their protective vests. They were not uniform like the disciplined legions of the Cathari Empire, yet they moved with purpose. Thalric zoomed his visor. He noticed the way they spoke to each other: short words, fast signals, hand gestures. Their eyes were sharp, always scanning the horizon. They laughed even as distant guns roared. One soldier, tall and scarred across the cheek, stood at the center. He spoke calmly while pointing to a map drawn in the dirt. The others listened, nodding. Thalric could not hear their words, but he read their body language. Trust. They trusted this leader completely. The commander and Thalric wanted to dismiss it as luck. But the observer in him could not ignore the fire in their faces. These were not soldiers broken by fear. These were hunters waiting for prey. The first skirmish, the ground shook. Thalric turned his gaze. A squad of Cathari drones approached the humans' position, moving through the rubble with metallic precision. Their energy rifles glowed in the dusk. This was it, the moment he had come to see. Humans were outnumbered, trapped inside broken walls. Thalric expected them to scatter like frightened prey. That was the logic of most conquered races. When hopeless, they fled, but the humans did not run. Instead, they moved quickly, silently. Two climbed ruined towers, setting up rifles on high ground. Others spread into alleys, hiding behind rubble. The scarred leader signaled once, and they all froze in perfect stillness, waiting. The drones entered. Their scanners swept the ruins. Then the first shot cracked. A drone's head exploded in sparks. Another shot followed from the opposite tower. The drones turned, confused, firing wildly into shadows. Humans struck again, not from the same place, but from another alley. An explosion roared as they detonated hidden charges buried under rubble. The blast sent two drones flying. The scarred leader shouted something, and the humans swarmed. Grenades flew. Rifles barked. One human sprinted into the open, drawing fire, while another flanked and threw an explosive onto the drone's back. The machine shattered in flame. In less than 5 minutes, the squad of drones was gone. Thalric stood frozen. This was not disorder. This was not weakness. This was something else, something his people had not expected. The doubt. The humans cheered briefly, clapping each other on the shoulders. But then, just as quickly, they returned to silence, scanning the horizon again. No celebration, no arrogance, only focus. The scarred leader adjusted his weapon, spoke a few words, and they moved again, deeper into the ruins, like ghosts vanishing into smoke. Thalric's 4 eyes blinked slowly. He replayed the battle through his visor. Every move was improvised, yet effective. Their weapons were old, yet they used them with deadly precision. Their courage was reckless, yet strangely logical. The Cathari believed humans would break easily. But Thalric had just watched them fight a hopeless battle, and win. A sharp unease crawled through his chest. He remembered the mocking laughter of the officers in orbit. He remembered their words, nothing but toys. Not worthy of fear, but standing on this ruined world, listening to the distant sound of human guns, Thalric felt the first shadow of something dangerous. Not fear. Not yet, but doubt. Closing of part 1. Night fell. Thalric stayed hidden on the ridge, his visor glowing faintly as he recorded every detail. The humans below lit no fires. They moved carefully, setting traps, preparing for another clash. He should have felt superior. He should have believed in the endless power of the Cathari Empire. Instead, he whispered to himself, almost too softly for his own translator to catch. If this is how they fight when cornered, then perhaps we have underestimated them. And in the silence of the burning world, the commander of the Cathari began to doubt not the humans, but his own people's survival. Smoke still hung over the ruined city like a heavy curtain. Commander Thalric stayed on the high ridge, visor glowing faintly, recording every detail of the battlefield. Below, the humans moved quietly among the wreckage of the fight. Their numbers were fewer now, but their spirit did not break. Where Cathari soldiers would retreat to regroup, humans pressed forward. They pulled apart broken drones, opened the shells of fallen walkers, and carried glowing pieces of alien machinery back into their hidden tunnels. Thalrix narrowed his four eyes. What are they doing? They should flee, yet they linger, studying our machines. The curiosity of humans. The scarred leader gave quick orders. His people dragged alien weapons into cover, surrounding them with tools and wires. Some cut into the machines with sparks flying. Others scribbled notes on scraps of paper, arguing in quick voices, testing switches and buttons. Thalrix felt his chest tighten. They are not only fighting, they are learning. One soldier lifted the arm of a broken drone. He pressed its trigger carefully. A faint beam of light shot out, scorching the ground. The soldier laughed in excitement, calling to others. Soon, 3 humans were testing the same weapon, learning how to hold it, how to aim it. Cathari doctrine said primitive races could not understand advanced technology. They lacked the training, the neural design, the discipline. Yet Thalrix was watching with his own eyes as humans turned scavengers into engineers. They are adapting too fast. The makeshift workshop hours passed. The ruins became a workshop. Humans sat among fire-blackened walls, surrounded by alien parts, building strange devices. One soldier, a thin woman with sharp eyes, attached a glowing power cell to a crude metal tube. She pulled a trigger made of scrap. A burst of light shot out, cutting deep into stone. The humans cheered. Another group linked alien batteries together, creating a rough explosive that shook the ground when tested. They smiled, clapping each other's backs, proud of their creation. Thalrix recorded every detail, his mind racing. The council believes humans are clumsy, but look at them. They build weapons in hours from parts they barely understand. What will they do if they capture one of our ships? The ambush the Cathari Empire did not rest. Before nightfall, another wave of drones marched into the ruins. Wings humming, scanners glowing. This time, the humans were waiting. From the rubble, glowing beams cut through the air. Not Cathari beams, but human-made copies. Drones exploded, their metal bodies crashing into the dirt. One soldier carried a hybrid weapon, half rifle, half alien cannon. He fired clumsily but with deadly effect, knocking a drone from the sky. Another group rolled improvised energy grenades down the street, blasting machines apart. The scarred leader moved at the front, carrying an alien rifle with strange wires wrapped around it. Each shot burned a hole through steel. He shouted, his voice strong, and his people followed like a storm. The drones were forced back. Thalrix's 4 hands clenched into fists. Impossible. How can a species rise from ruins, with scraps, and turn our own technology against us? The human way. After the ambush, the humans did not celebrate long. They quickly gathered fallen parts, salvaging more from destroyed drones. Even children, too young for battle, hiding in the ruins, were seen helping, carrying metal pieces to the fighters. Thalrix stared in silence. In Cathari culture, war was left to warriors alone. Civilians were kept away, protected or discarded. But here, among humans, everyone played a part. Each hand, young or old, added strength to their survival. He whispered into his recorder, voice heavy. Humans do not separate war from life. To them, survival is shared by all. Even their smallest ones serve the fight. This is not weakness, it is unity. The words unsettled him. He had never spoken in such a way about an enemy before. Frustration in command. That night, Cathari commanders contacted him again. Observer Thalrix, explain these failures. A cold voice demanded. Why do drones not control the ruins? Why do humans resist longer than calculations predicted? Thalrix paused before answering. They adapt. They use our own weapons now. They fight with creativity. Laughter filled the channel. Creativity? These are animals, not tacticians. You speak nonsense, Observer. Tomorrow we will send more firepower. They will break. The connection ended. Thalrix sat in silence, his claws tapping against the metal ridge. He felt a hollow ache in his chest. His commanders were blind. They laughed at warnings. But he could see the truth clearly. The humans were not breaking. They were only becoming stronger. The night attack as midnight approached. Humans launched their boldest move yet. Instead of waiting for the next Cathari assault, they carried their new weapons into the open fields beyond the ruins. Silent as shadows, they moved in small groups, circling the alien encampment set outside the city. Thalrix followed at a distance, cloaked, curious, and uneasy. The humans crept close to the first camp. Guards patrolled with scanners, confident that primitive rifles could not harm them. But the humans carried something else now. The thin woman with sharp eyes raised her hybrid cannon. A single glowing shot cut down the guard instantly. At the same moment, improvised explosives were hurled over the walls. Explosions tore through tents and machines. Humans stormed the camp with fire and smoke, shouting war cries. They moved so fast, so fearlessly, that Cathari soldiers scattered in confusion. Within minutes, the camp was burning. Humans carried away crates of supplies, alien rifles, and more power cells before disappearing again into the darkness. Thalrix's breath quickened. They are not only defending anymore, they are striking us. They are learning offense, respect, and fear. When the humans returned to their ruins, they were tired, wounded, but alive. They laughed together around small fires, voices warm even in the cold night. Some sang rough songs. Others shared food, passing it hand to hand. Thalrix watched them quietly. His own kind, after such a battle, would sit in silence, waiting for orders, fearing punishment for mistakes. But these humans, these fragile creatures of flesh and bone, found strength and joy, even after death and pain. It was then that Thalrix felt something new, something dangerous for an observer of the Empire: respect. He whispered softly, "They laugh in the face of death. They learn what they should not know. If the Council does not fear them now, one day they will." The words chilled him. Closing of Part 3. The sky lit with distant flashes as more Cathari fleets descended. Thalrix knew the war was only beginning, but already deep in his mind a terrible question had formed, one he could not erase. If humans can do this in days, what will they become in years? For the first time, he was no longer certain which side of history he stood on. And in the ruins below, the scarred human leader raised a captured alien rifle to the stars, a silent promise that the fight was far from over. The third dawn came with thunder. From orbit, a massive Cathari fleet descended, hundreds of ships darkening the sky. The Council had lost patience. They no longer sought to study or suppress the humans. They now sought to erase them completely. Thalrix's visor tracked the landing zones. Thousands of drones swarmed. Heavy cannons dug into the ground. The air trembled with power. This was no longer a battle. It was annihilation, a choice. Thalrix stood frozen. His orders were clear: observe, record, and report. But inside, his mind burned. He remembered the scarred leader standing firm. He remembered the fearless soldier who had blinded a walker with a flare. He remembered the woman who built a cannon from scraps. And he remembered the Council's laughter. If the humans died here, their courage would vanish with them. But if they lived, if they endured even this, then the Cathari Empire itself might one day fall. For the first time, Thalrix faced a choice: loyalty to his empire, or truth to himself. Warning the enemy, he activated his communicator. Switching to a broad human frequency he had secretly recorded. Static filled his ears, then faint human voices. He spoke slowly, carefully, his translator adjusting. "Humans, hear me. The Cathari come with great force. They will strike at dawn. Prepare yourselves." There was silence, then shouting, confusion. Finally, a calm voice answered. The scarred leader. His tone carried no fear, only curiosity. "Who are you?" Thalrix hesitated. "An observer. One who has seen your strength. You must live. You must fight. If you do not, no one will stop the Empire." The channel went silent, but Thalrix knew they had heard. The final battle. The invasion began with fire from the skies. Energy beams rained down, flattening hills and forests. Walkers advanced in endless lines, drones filling the air like swarms of insects. But the humans were ready. Thanks to Thalrix's warning, they had evacuated civilians, set deeper traps, and prepared ambushes. They struck the first wave with explosions that lit the sky. Captured cannons fired back, crude but deadly. Soldiers charged fearlessly, shouting war cries that shook even Thalrix's heart. The battle raged for hours. Humans fell, but so did Cathari. The canyon once again became a graveyard of machines. Smoke covered the sun. At one point, Thalrix saw the scarred leader climb a burning wall, raising a captured alien rifle high. The humans roared at the sight, fighting with renewed fury. It was not victory. It was not defeat. It was survival. Collapse of certainty by dusk, both armies lay shattered. Cathari numbers still dwarfed human strength, but their morale cracked. They had expected easy conquest. Instead, they met endless resistance. Thalrix's chest ached. He knew the council would demand his silence, would twist his report into lies, but the truth burned too brightly inside him. He whispered into his recorder, "I was ordered to observe humans in combat. I have done so. And now I no longer doubt only our survival. I doubt our right to rule." Closing night fell. Fires burned across the horizon. Humans gathered, wounded but alive, their songs rising softly into the dark. Thalrix stood apart, unseen, torn between two worlds. His own people would call him traitor. The humans would call him stranger. Yet deep inside he knew the truth. Humanity was no prey. Humanity was the storm that no empire could cage. And he, once an observer of conquest, was now a witness to something far greater. The beginning of human defiance that could one day shake the stars themselves. Commander Thalrix returned to his hidden observation post as the second night fell across the ruined city. His armor hummed softly, repairing scratches from stray debris, yet his mind was far more restless than his body. The humans had done the unthinkable. They had stolen Cathari technology, rebuilt it in crude ways, and then turned it back on their enemies. Worse than that, they had succeeded. Their attack on the supply camp had not been luck. It had been clever planning, teamwork, and daring. The council would not believe it. His earpiece buzzed. A sharp, commanding voice filled the channel. "Observer Thalrix, prepare your report. The High Command will hear your findings." The report the council chamber appeared before him as a glowing image in his visor. Dozens of Cathari officers stared, their bodies wrapped in polished armor, their eyes gleaming with arrogance. Thalrix stood straight, forcing calm into his voice. "I have observed the humans in combat. They do not fight as predicted. Their tactics are irregular, their actions illogical yet effective. They improvise constantly, turning weakness into strength. They now use our own technology, captured from destroyed drones and walkers." The chamber filled with laughter. "Impossible," one general snapped. "Their brains cannot understand our designs." Thalrix's tone sharpened. "Then explain how I witnessed them fire our rifles, power our cells, and even build explosives from scrap. They are not slow to learn. They are dangerously fast." The laughter grew quieter. A few officers shifted uneasily. But one, a high commander with scars across his mandibles, leaned forward. "You exaggerate, observer. Tell us plainly. Do you believe these humans can defeat the Empire?" Silence filled the chamber. Thalrix's throat tightened. Speaking truth was dangerous, but silence was worse. "I believe," he said slowly, "that if they are underestimated, they will not only survive, they will one day defeat us." The chamber erupted. Voices shouted, insults flew. One called him a coward, another accused him of treachery. The High Commander slammed his staff against the floor. "Enough! Observer Thalrix, continue your watch. We will decide later if your warnings are fear or truth." The image vanished. Thalrix stood alone again in the ruins, his chest heavy. He had spoken honestly, but instead of listening, his people mocked him. Back to the battlefield the next morning, explosions shook the earth. Cathari reinforcements had arrived in force. Heavy walkers, armored carriers, and wave after wave of drones. Thalrix hurried to his ridge. Below, the humans were already in motion. The scarred leader shouted orders, his hand raised. Humans scrambled through trenches, placed charges, and dragged weapons into position. Children carried water. Women patched wounds. Old men sharpened blades. Everyone fought in their own way. The Cathari legions advanced in shining lines, weapons glowing. It should have been overwhelming, yet the humans were ready. The canyon trap. The scarred leader guided his people toward a deep canyon near the ruins. Thalrix followed from above, puzzled. Why retreat into a narrow space? It seemed foolish, but then he saw it. The humans had spent nights preparing the canyon walls. Ropes, pulleys, explosives hidden in cracks, rocks loosened and ready to fall. The Cathari marched in, confident. Drones flew above, walkers stomped below. The leader gave a sharp whistle, the canyon roared. Explosives detonated, boulders collapsed, fire burst from hidden charges. Entire sections of wall crumbled, burying machines. Humans rained gunfire and captured beams from above. The Cathari forces, trapped in the canyon, stumbled in chaos. Walkers fell on their own troops. Drones crashed into walls. It was a slaughter of the invaders. Thalrix's realization. Watching from above, Thalrix's heart pounded. His visor filled with data. Numbers of fallen drones, disabled walkers, lost carriers. The figures climbed faster than he had ever seen. He whispered to himself, "They learn too quickly. They adapt too perfectly. This war will not end as the Council believes." For the first time, he admitted something terrible. He admired them. These fragile humans, with their scars and dirt, with their mismatched weapons, fought with more spirit than any Cathari legion he had commanded, and admiration was dangerous. Night of silence. After the battle, humans mourned their dead quietly. They placed stones over bodies, sang soft songs, and then returned to repairing weapons. Thalrix stayed hidden, his 4 eyes watching the scarred leader sit by the fire. The man's face was tired, but his eyes burned with determination. In that moment, Thalrix felt the truth more clearly than ever before. If humanity was given enough time, they would not just survive this war. They would rise beyond it. And perhaps one day they would challenge the Cathari Empire itself.